Most people don't realize how much of their personal information is being bought and sold every day. Data brokers are making millions pulling details about you from public records and the internet, then packaging and selling it, usually without your consent. That's how your information lands in the hands of scammers, spammers, even stalkers. It's why you get endless robocalls and why ads seem to follow you everywhere. That's where Aura comes in. Aura actively removes your data from broker sites and keeps it off. They also instantly alert you if your information shows up in a breach or on the dark web. But Aura goes beyond data protection. With one app, you get a VPN, antivirus, password manager, spam call protection, dark web monitoring, and even up to $5 million in identity theft insurance, all backed by 24/7 US-based fraud support. Other companies might just sell credit monitoring or just a VPN. Aura gives you all of it, together at the same price competitors charge for just one service. Start your free trial today at aura.com/hidden. Protect yourself now at aura.com/hidden. Everyone treats summer like it owes you happiness. Long days, pool parties, your best life on a loop. So what does it mean when you feel worse? The summer blues are real. It's why summer is one of the busiest stretches of the year for people starting therapy. Therapy is not only for when you're in crisis. Growth therapy is for all the moments when you decide you want more. More support, more clarity, more tools. Mental health isn't a destination you reach. It's something you build, and Grow makes that easier. Grow connects you with thousands of high-quality licensed therapists across the U.S., offering both virtual and in-person sessions, nights and weekends. You can search by what matters, like insurance, specialty, identity, or availability, and get started in as little as 2 days. There are no subscriptions, no long-term commitments. You just pay per session. Grow helps you find therapy on your time. The therapist you want takes your insurance on Grow. Grow accepts over 125 insurance plans. Sessions average $21 with insurance, and some pay as little as $0 depending on their plan. Visit growtherapy.com/book now today to get started. That's growtherapy.com/book now. growtherapy.com/book now. Availability and coverage vary by state and insurance plan.
Rohan Anand, welcome to Sports Management Podcast.
Thank you for having me.
It's great to have you on the show. You are the co-founder and CEO of Center Circle. So can you tell myself and the listeners and viewers a little bit about your company?
So Center Circle is designed to support the volunteers who run grassroots football. So I think what most people don't know is when you turn up on a weekend to a local football pitch and you know where you're going, 22 other people have all turned up, the referee, etc. Often it's 1, 2, or a handful of volunteers that have made that possible. And when you think about it, if you take just England alone, there's, potentially millions of people every single weekend moving around the country to a specific pitch on a football pitch somewhere. And the fact that they know where to go and what to do, I think is incredible. So we just try and support the volunteers with that. We try and put everything in a platform. So rather than it being kind of spreadsheets, emails, phone calls, just a bit more semi-automated, help them save their time, and they can then obviously spend that hopefully developing the next generation instead.
Yeah, so you're putting everything in one platform. What type of support is it that you feel like the volunteers are looking for the most?
Where to start, to be honest with you? I think with volunteers, most of them, it's around kind of communication, just one centralized database that everything is. I think a lot of the problems around grassroots football at the moment, and it's not just England, it's I think in every other country, is maybe you've got WhatsApp for communication, you're paying your fees on a different platform, you've got your fixtures in a different place. So before you even get into the weeds of the detail, you've got 2, 3, 4 platforms that are in use. And I don't think that's a great experience for anybody. So I think it's just all about centralization. But in order to do that, it's very regulatory heavy without making it sound really boring. And that's all for the safety of football, in particular children as well. So it's quite a complicated infrastructure, but we are making really good progress in kind of wrapping that into one location and making life easier for those volunteers.
That's awesome. And I know you were a grassroots referee before you became a tech entrepreneur. So at that point, did you see that there was a gap in the market, that this was something that was missing?
Yeah, I guess going a bit earlier in my journey. So the refereeing was kind of the last role that I really took on. But when I was playing as well, I've been obsessed with football since a child. So I've been playing before I can even remember. And then my dad always used to complain that he had no idea where we were going that weekend. And he'd always be on the phone the morning or the night before to one manager trying to find out what was going on. I then got into a little bit of coaching and helped out with some of the kids. Then I sat on a league committee and then I picked up refereeing. And it was all of those hats that I wore. The consistent thing that I noticed was that I didn't really know anything unless I went looking for it. And I think that was one of the problems. And so, yeah, from a refereeing standpoint, I think the gap was that it was our way into the football market. I mean, as you know, it's quite a gated industry. And so I think getting into sports is something that we'll probably talk about a little bit later. But I think getting into it was really important. And we need to find that way in that was relevant, that was topical, that was problem solving. And in my opinion, at that point in time anyway, refereeing in this country was the way in.
Interesting. So you decided to start Center Circle. How did you get started? Did you talk with volunteers and see what they wanted, or like some type of market research, or how did you kick it off?
You know what? It's quite a weird story. So I had just finished university, and I'll give you the very short version. I had just finished university, and there was a guy who was marking my presentation. And at the end of it, he essentially said to me, you know, I like the way you presented. I've got a startup in Birmingham. Would you like to come and work for me over summer? And I was meant to go traveling or go see the world. So I thought, why not? It's risk-free. I get a bit of money and then I can kind of do that afterwards. I stuck around for 9 months, but essentially the company didn't quite survive. You know, startups, it's difficult to keep them going. And Ollie is my co-founder, and he was is the tech brains behind the business. We just got in a room and said, have you got any ideas? And I said, well, I've got this really wacky one. And he does not like football. He's got no interest in football. And I really had to explain it to him and kind of sell it to him. And he thought, oh, okay, that sounds really easy. It's kind of 6 months. We'll get in, we'll get out, we'll do our thing. And then I can do something that actually is interesting to him. Anyway, 7 years later, we find ourselves still here. And that was how we got into it. It was literally just an idea because we had pretty much lost our jobs. And we just thought, is there anything else that we can do that doesn't need marketing spend? But I already had that lived experience of this across 3, 4, 5 different hats within football. And so it was very easy to get into the market because I already knew it and also had good contacts in that ecosystem as well.
So since Ollie didn't have a background in football, then you must have sold it to him pretty well, right?
Honestly, even to this day in our database, because he didn't understand like it's home team versus an away team. So he just called it Club 1 versus Club 2. And that's still the structure that we have to live with to this day. So I think what I explained to him was maybe just the problems that existed. And as somebody who builds tech products for a living, he could not understand how football, this multi-billion-pound industry, the size of multiple FTSE companies, is being run by A, an army of volunteers, and B, essentially on pen and paper. That was when we just thought we can do something about this, and it should be easier than most other industries to fix.
Yeah. So you said that he was thinking like doing a 6 months, like, and then enter. Was it to do an exit, or then he thought that he just like created the framework and then it would continue without him, or?
I'm not sure. I think it was probably an exit. And in that case, that was his gap of knowledge of football really helped me then, because I sold him a dream. And we're still here now to this day. But no, I think in reality, I think that was what he was expecting. But I think what we maybe didn't quite understand, being me in particular, being youthful and full of energy and thinking you can tackle the world and solve every problem, it needs the market to also go at the pace at which you want to move. So if we go too quickly and we have volunteers doing it in their spare time who are maybe, they have more life experience than we do, they want to go slower. So they kind of want to do this little bit this season, then we'll do the next bit the next season. So that's already a 2-year delay that basically hooked Ollie in for a little bit longer. But his football knowledge now is great. I even got him to watch England with us the other day. So we're making progress.
Is he a football fan for one of the local teams now? You mentioned you're in Manchester.
Literally not at all. I will also say that when England were on in the last game, his girlfriend was watching it and he literally closed one set of doors and another set of doors just so he could have some peace and quiet while she was screaming at the TV. So yeah, I don't think you would find him very commonly football match or around a football pitch, to be honest with you.
I understand. So from a technology side, AI is always something that talks a lot about, and the question like, will it replace people in the workplace, so to speak? Here you're using technology to help volunteers, so not to replace anybody. But are you guys implementing any type of AI features or AI to help you in your business?
I think we're looking, as with most tech businesses at the moment, we're looking at it. I think really these tech businesses that have implemented it well, they're essentially software factories where it's all about writing up the spec. And once you write up the spec and do a good job, then you would deploy an agent to do the rest, a different agent to do the tests. And it's essentially that human job, but the software factory that you've created is almost doing it for you. I think with grassroots football, it's a lot more intricate than that. And it's not quite like other tech platforms would be, because one update needs to both travel downwards, but also travel upwards to tell everybody what's going on. So it's kind of bilateral transfer of information. I think also when you're dealing with children and things like that, it's a bit more sensitive. And so the way that we're utilizing it at the moment is probably, it's better in terms of the efficiencies, but it's probably in the lower spec in a very basic manner of the easiest thing you can do to an AI is just give it a prompt and it gives you an answer. But that's not really the power of what AI can do. And so we need to get into the weeds of that a little bit. But time is always the limiting factor, I think, from our perspective.
Yeah, I understand that. I know you have a lot of your place doing a lot of things. One of them being some partnerships that you guys have built up with some local football associations. So how important has that been to create those partnerships?
Oh, it's been critical. I mean, I think multiple layers, right? So the first thing is just a trust signal. These are the people who are governing football in the local area, and they're the boots on the ground. They know it better than anybody else does. So I think that's been a really important part of the equation. But I think more than that is that, in a way, a lot of them, whilst they are salaried because they work for these organizations, they need just as much help as the volunteers need, because they're a very small team managing hundreds of thousands of people in a lot of cases. And again, they're reliant on an email inbox and trying to kind of weed through that. And really, it didn't get into football to administer it and deal with support tickets. They got into it to develop the game and get the next generation, whether that be referees, whether that be players, whether that be coaches, kind of developed and improving on their journey and their life cycle within football. So I think the partnerships are critical. And that's also because we very much view it as a partnership, and it's not, it's also how can we help them? How can we build tech for them? And I think critically, everything we build and everything we do it for free. So we're not charging people to use the platform. We're not charging the counties to build solutions for them. We just want to be the people that listen to them, that hear the problems, but critically, because we're a startup and we're a bit more agile, we can kind of flex the system and build these solutions in really quickly as well.
So how does the revenue model look like if the users don't pay? Is the ad spend?
Nope, no, ads free, totally. Literally the revenue model that we have, most companies who do what we do or in a kind of similar system, they basically rely on payments and they charge a premium for payments, and that's how they make their money. In my world, all you're doing if you do that is, let's imagine you're taking, let's use simple numbers, 5% of a payment processing fee. Well, that is pricing children out of football, because there's parents that can't afford that. Because if a club is being charged 5%, they obviously are going to have to pass that cost on to the parent. And therefore the parent maybe turns around and says, I can't afford. And that's not what we want to do. We want to do the opposite. We want to drive the costs down and let participation drive up north. And hopefully it becomes, this incredible ecosystem that's self-sufficient and funds itself. So our business model is totally different. I can't give too much away at this point in time because we're kind of still in that growth phase. But essentially, it's all about how can we create a free solution, a free system that critically doesn't charge the end user and doesn't charge anybody associated with grassroots football. Instead, leverages the power of the community behind it to facilitate the revenue generation later down the line.
I like that. So you don't create, barriers for grassroots sports. And you mentioned also we're talking about volunteers, which literally work for free. So then
exactly,
you don't want to. Yeah,
that's it. I think actually it comes back to one core thing, right? People that see grassroots football as a service sector, as a delivery sector, a product that they can monetize, have totally misunderstood what grassroots football stands for. Grassroots football is an army of people doing it for free so that the next generation have as many playing opportunities as possible. So if you understand that and you care about that as much as I do, and I'm very passionate about it, then you have to be smarter. And football has proven historically it can sell anything if you get the model right. You just need to work on that model really closely to make sure that it's done in the right way and it's something that can scale, so essentially doesn't fall over because you run out of money or something like that. But yeah, you have to reduce barriers. You have to make it as cost effective as possible. We want to see kids from any background being able to play football. That's what it's about. When you see people with a ball at their feet, I don't know, there's something really magical about that moment where all the stresses, all the worries in life disappear, and it's just somebody with a football just having the best time of their lives. And that's what we want to see more often.
Yeah. If we look in the future about grassroots football, what do you think they need in order to take the next step? Is it more funding, more technology, leadership?
I think the lazy answer is always more funding, right? Because everybody always needs more money, and you can do whatever you could do with all that cash. I think actually what the FA are doing at the moment in this country is incredible. They're kind of going on a bit of a revolution where they've recognized some of the gaps that they maybe had 10 years ago, and they're beginning to plug them very quickly. So I think from that standpoint, we are very fortunate and we're very well catered for. I think really what it's about is making an ecosystem that's self-sufficient where everybody can communicate with one another. And I think as soon as you do that, these bottlenecks and gaps that lie where, let's take a simple example of one football match. If I'm the home team and I'm the one organizing it, I have to copy and paste everything to tell the opposition manager what's going on. I have to copy and paste everything to tell the referee what's going on. If anything changes, because we live in England with British weather, and similar with you in Sweden as well, games get called off all the time because of the rain. You've then got to paste another message back to the same people, and it's just 4 times the job that you're doing for one update every single time. So I think as soon as you can reduce the pressure on these people who are organizing it, then you can start to engage in conversations around, right, now you've got a bit more spare time. How can we work with you to build out maybe the fundraising or the delivery or whatever it might be? So I think that is step one of kind of everything else that we see really are just symptoms of a root cause, which is the problem I've just mentioned. And I think then once you solve that, I think what you can do with a sport where you've got everybody pulling in the same direction is unbelievable. And I think that's when the opportunities that can exist just come to fruition, but in a way that people probably never even foresaw. And it just drives so much funding into grassroots football, because corporates nowadays, I mean, in my view anyway, it's an easy sell, right? You're reaching the local people who are engaging with your brand, but also the family, the parent who's the decision maker. So you've got the emotional connection with, let's say, the child, and the kind of disposable income of the parent. So as a corporate partner, that's exactly who you would want to be targeting. I mean, if you're Nike or Adidas, right? There's lots of other brands out there, by the way. And, you know, if you're spending millions on Facebook ads, if you spent a little bit of money on targeting the people who are playing football actively, you would probably save a load of money in marketing and have a better return on investment. So it's just, how do we make that happen? That's the most important question that we have to keep trying to answer.
Yeah. No, I think that's an important one. And now when you have been up and running with your platform for a few years, can you see an increase in like the users on your platform and see a positive trend?
Yeah, massively so. Given that we don't do any marketing, as well as the platform being free, we also believe that if the platform's good enough, because it's got utility, word of mouth will spread quicker than anything else can do. So we don't spend any money on advertising. And yeah, I mean, last season we've grown 5x. The year before that the growth was even higher, but from a much lower baseline. We're growing at a really rapid rate, and the tech is standing up as well, which is good. And as I say, now it's just about, because we're growing, I think part of that challenge and part of maybe our growing pains, almost sometimes I think there's that fine balance between growing so fast that you're successful, but too fast that you as a team can't keep up with the pace at which you're growing at. And I think we're really mindful of that. So we try and keep that balance, because we're a team of 11 or 12 people trying to support football across the whole country with hundreds of thousands of people on the platform. So it can become challenging at times, especially like start of the season in September when there's a massive surge. I remember last year, I literally worked until like 6 o'clock in the morning one night just to try and get the support tickets down. So we all chip in, we all do it because we love it. But yeah, the growth has been incredible. I think that's the most rewarding part of it, to be honest.
Yeah, I can understand that. So from the beginning, it was you and Ollie. And how has the team evolved since?
So it's essentially been just an investment into engineers. Obviously, being a tech platform and not needing any advertising, that makes life much easier, because it's quite a kind of clean recruitment plan and recruitment drive, which has just been get as many developers as physically possible. So a bit of a boring answer, unfortunately, but an accurate one nonetheless. And then I think from there, it's been critical hires, right? You need somebody on product, you need somebody on support, you need somebody on comms. And then we have a couple of project managers in the background that support as well. So it's very much focused on the delivery arm of grassroots football, not the kind of sexy marketing piece, I think. But I think as a byproduct of us doing that, we get invited to events where we then can just film them, record them, and deliver them in a nicer way than maybe they would otherwise be done at that level of football. And so again, even that from an optics standpoint, because perception is reality, being able to level up grassroots football because it's now being viewed in a slightly more professional manner as well, is just as important as fixing the back end and the rails that underpin it as well.
Yeah. So not spending marketing dollars, was that a conscious decision from the beginning that you didn't want to do that? Or was it just they didn't fit the budget and then the word of mouth and everything spread, so it worked out?
No, it was a conscious decision from the beginning. Going back to when Ollie and I were in that room and we were saying, we've just lost our jobs, do you have any ideas? This business had gone bust because of advertising spend. And if it had done better with its marketing, then it wouldn't have been in the position that it was in. So Ollie and I, pretty much the first conversation we had was, do you have any ideas that don't need any marketing spend? That was the one-liner. And that was how I kind of came up with this one. Because I said, well, I've got some connections already. We can at least test the MVP of it. We can see if it will work, yes or no. And that was within 3 months. We had the first version of the app up. We were testing it on 2 leagues. We were live, kind of getting that user feedback straight away. Admittedly, whilst the app was live on your phone, if anybody did anything on it, it would ping me an email. So for the first 2 years, or for the first season, maybe actually, I was awake at like all times of the day, all times of the night. And as soon as anything happened, I was just keying it in to make it look like it was a kind of all singing, all dancing portal for somebody to use on back end. But in reality, I was just manually, furiously typing it in to try and keep on top of it. So that was clearly not going to scale. But those amazing kind of bootstrapping stories of like, almost at the time it's stressful, but then you look back on it and it was quite fun in a way. But it was also challenging because that was the point in time when, you know, as I say, I was really young. All my mates were still going out. They were having a good time. They were learning about themselves in the working world now, having just left university. Whereas I had to kind of pass up on a lot of those opportunities. As I say, I just had to sit in front of a computer for like 2 years. And so I think now kind of coming a few years down the line and things beginning to level out a little bit, I'm quite enjoying just being able to take a little bit of that time back. I am a bit of a workaholic, but I am trying to find more time for friends and family now as well.
I see. But that's the early years of entrepreneurship, right? You need to dig deep. And in order to make it happen, no one else will do it for you.
Yeah, exactly that. And I mean, it wasn't just me either. Like the hours that Ollie used to put in for somebody who doesn't like football was incredible. And the two of us were just, we were like two peas in a pod. You know, if I was online, he was online. And it was just, he actually lives in Birmingham and I was in Manchester. So obviously it was remote anyway, but that's tech for you, right? It was good fun. And it definitely has been a lot of digging in deep, a hell of a lot of mileage of traveling around the country, just getting people to meet you. But as I say, I think once we got the word out there, and people understood that we weren't trying, because I think people were always saying, well, hang on, if it's free and you're listening to us and you're building us solutions, but we're not paying you a penny, what's the catch? This sounds too good to be true. And if it sounds like that, it normally is. And that took a lot of kind of trust gathering so that people knew, no, we weren't going to come in with charges later. We weren't going to make things difficult for them. We weren't going to lock them into a system and then say you've suddenly got to pay 50 quid a month or whatever. It was very much, we're doing this to help. You just have to trust us and we'll kind of repay you back. So yeah, there's a lot of winning people over. And as you can imagine, this is going back over 5 years now. The demographic of these people, they weren't maybe youthful and also as kind of quick to understand what the world could look like. So it was also a challenge trying to explain it in a way that made sense to them and really kind of tailor that specific to who I was talking to. So all part of the fun of growing, I guess.
Yeah. So do you feel like you had to sacrifice many things, not just like going out with your mates, but other things that you had to sacrifice during the first years?
I think so, yeah. If I'm honest, like I used to be obsessed with the gym. Like I would go every day, if not twice a day. That totally went out the window because I was just on the road every day. You know, and when you're traveling, you end up eating bad foods. And it was, so from a sacrifice, from a personal standpoint, my personal health, basically, I just became pretty overweight, to be honest with you. And I'm still trying to undo that to this day. But that was part of it. But I think, to be honest, like being early 20s and having to sacrifice a lot of social events, but your friends not understanding at all because they're not going through that journey whatsoever, and essentially becoming known as like the person who you can invite, but he's not going to turn up, maybe wasn't so great. And I think that was a really big challenge. And that took a lot of me getting used to. And that was quite difficult as well. And there were kind of quite a few low moments in that, as you know, because you see people that are all with each other and you knew that you could have been there and you're not there. And you just sat at home waiting for an email that never arrived that night. So I could have been there. But I think when I fast forward to now, it was also worth it.
Yeah. And now you said 7 years it's been?
7 years since we incorporated the business, really from when we kind of actually took it seriously. Because to begin with, whilst it was a good idea, it was more like a passion project for me. I was like, oh, this could be fun. Then obviously COVID paused everything for kind of 18 to 24 months. So really and truly, it's only kind of been the last 4 years, maybe slightly less, when we've taken it seriously as an actual business rather than just let's try something. And that's when we started then kind of taking on investment, hiring more of a team, getting the word out there a bit more. But yeah, it's been great.
And if you think 7 years ahead, where are Center Circle then? What are you guys doing, continuing, hammering?
For me, if we can be helping grassroots football by kicking in a load of cash from a kind of, just, I don't know, fundraising, grants, sponsorships, whatever it might be, because there's now an engine that can underpin what is happening at grassroots football. Definitely a lot of time back for all of the volunteers who can spend it with their families and stuff. But I think really and truly just everything being a tap away would be the ideal scenario. And maybe not just in this country, maybe in other countries as well. If I'm honest, I'm quite patriotic. So if I only really care about England, if I'm honest with you, and then somebody else, if they want to take it and try and go into a different country, great, the system's there for you to do so. But I don't think I've got the appetite to do what I'm doing now all over again in a whole new country, because I know how much work and time goes into that. But yeah, that would be, I think, where I would like it to be. It's something I can kind of be really proud of because we helped people. And I think that's the most important thing.
That's awesome. So maybe a franchise model? Is that what you said abroad?
Potentially. I think, to be honest, all these options are on the table. It could be a franchise model. It could be, a joint venture that you do with somebody. There's a few different structures that we can look at. And I think actually it will be on a country by country basis. Because, for example, if you're trying to get into Japan, as a very rogue, good example, joint ventures are normally the best way of doing that over there. Whereas Australia may be franchise because, God, that's so far away. And I would love to go to Australia for a while. But yeah, I assume in 5 years, 7 years time, there'll be other things I've got to consider that aren't just me. So so many options on the table. I think that's really exciting, right? Having a business that could go in so many different directions is great. It's also sometimes a challenge because people say, well, you've got 20 different directions. Which one are you going to go in? And you're almost not sure what the right answer is. So it's kind of learning on the job in a way, but I love it. I really enjoy it. I think we've got an amazing team and group around us that help to check and challenge what we think we should be doing. And I think that's really important as well.
Yeah. I look forward to following you on your journey.
Thank you, Marcus. Yeah.
So I said before we hit recording also, I want to get to know you a little bit. So you said that you're, been in love with football, but when did that start? How did you get into the sports industry and how's your journey been like?
It started from as young as I can remember. I mean, I'm a Liverpool fan, so I've been through some good moments like Istanbul. I think I was only like 8 or 9 years old when that happened. And I distinctly remember getting carpet burn on my knees because I was just knee sliding everywhere, going crazy when we had won it after the penalties. And I didn't know what to do with myself. I was just going crazy. That was something that I can literally still vividly remember to this day. But then I've also had the lows of the lows with times with Roy Hodgson as manager, and we had Paul Konchesky at left back, who for West Ham was incredible, but at Liverpool just didn't quite work out. So I've literally loved football since I was a kid. I think being from Manchester as well, like all of my friends are very into the football. You're going out or you're doing stuff or whatever. It was only ever football. It was either playing football or trading football cards in the playground or whatever it might have been. It was like they were the only options, really. And in terms of getting into the sport industry, if I'm honest, it was just the story that I told before. I kind of accidentally fell into it. As I say, I had been playing and I played to a decent standard. I had done the classic, like everyone starts as a striker when you're a child. You're like, yeah, I want to score all the goals. And then you realize you're nowhere near good enough. So you, as time goes on, you just get further and further back down the pitch, and ended up at left back. So, but I enjoyed that because I was just one of them that would just kind of bomb up and down the wing the whole time and just try and whip balls in and whatnot. But so I played to a good standard there. That was like the kind of English regional schools. So it was the kind of rung below the national team level at that age group, and got injured in both knees, unfortunately. And yeah, that was when I'd gone into these other roles and stuff and started looking into different things around football. But I think it's just always been part of my makeup and part of my DNA that football is just what I live for. I literally have no interest really in other sports. I enjoy watching them as an event and a spectacle, but I don't know the rules. I don't know how it works. I don't really have any interest. Actually, tennis is the one that I do. But outside of that, football is my passion. Football is my life. That's my religion, if anyone was to ask me.
Yeah. Did you study something like sports related in school or?
Not at all, no. So when I went to university, I'd always studied languages. I think you only really understand a culture if you understand the language and the mother tongue that they speak. So I was doing French, I was doing Spanish, And to be honest, I went to uni and I did international business with Spanish, which sounds great on paper, but in reality, I knew that was just because I get a year abroad in Madrid and I can just go and have a good time. And so I did that. But what I did over there, which I think was really important for me, was I went and continued my kind of footballing journey over there. So I looked into coaching, but they have slightly different badges that don't quite transport over unless it's the UEFA side of it. So I couldn't do that. At the playing side of it, they were too technically good for me, so I had to back out of that. So I ended up just doing the refereeing piece, and I did a handful of games. Being able to get around Madrid and understand how that ecosystem works was incredible, because it actually showed me that all of the issues that I had already experienced in England, those exact same issues exist over there as well. And it was kind of then when I was in the back of my mind, I was thinking, there's got to be a better way of doing this. But I just didn't know what that was, because obviously at this point in time, I hadn't done any of that. I was just at university having a good time. And so no, it was nothing really sports related. It was just always within me as an individual, rather than anything I'd maybe learned or picked up over time.
Interesting. If someone is listening that they want to become an entrepreneur in the sports industry, what would be some advice that you have for them?
I think as with any industry, just network. Like, you never know where these things will take you. And sports in particular, there's so many events and it's such a wide berth of things. I think I'm really key on saying to a lot of people only talk about playing opportunities. And in reality, football clubs, when you think about it, let's take Manchester United or something, they have catering, they have cleaning, they have content, they have social media, they have marketing, they have finance, they have HR, they have every industry you could ever think of is wrapped into one place. So it doesn't matter what your interests may be or what your skill set may be, football can offer you that opportunity. So the question really is, don't pigeon yourself down any specific kind of rabbit hole. Just experience the world, see what you enjoy, meet people, and you never know where that may take you, because sport can take you in so many different directions that you probably wouldn't have expected it to. I definitely would not expect that I would have the gift of being on your podcast, Marcus, and being able to come on here a few years down the line. And also some of the other things that I've experienced in football as well. I just thought I was a kid who solving a problem, and I didn't think I would be here. So just throw yourself in. You'll have a great time. People are really receptive, especially young people nowadays as well. And there's so many opportunities you'll find quite quickly, I'm sure.
That's awesome. And great to hear, that you're doing well, and appreciate you being on the show as well. Before we sign off here, how can the listeners find you, read more about you guys? Where are you?
Yeah, so on social media, it's at Center Circle App, APP, like a mobile app on your phone. And then centercircleapp.com is the website. So you can find us on socials, you can find our website as well, and you can read a little bit about us and what we do and the people behind the business on all of those mediums.
Awesome. Rohan, it's been a pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much for joining Sports Management Podcast.
Thank you so much, Marcus.
Thank you for listening to the Sports Management Podcast. Please hit the follow or subscribe button on your podcast app so you don't miss out on any upcoming episodes. If you want to get in contact with me, send an email to sportsmpodcast@gmail.com, connect with me on LinkedIn, or follow the podcast on Instagram, X, and Facebook @SportsM Podcast.
You know what's wild? Most people are still overpaying for car insurance just because it's a pain to switch. That's why there's Jerry. Jerry's the only app that compares rates from over 50 insurers in minutes and helps you switch fast with no spam calls or hidden fees. Drivers who save with Jerry could save over $1,300 a year. Before you renew your car insurance policy, do yourself a favor. Download the Jerry app or head to jerry.ai/Libsyn. That's JERRY.ai/LIBSYN.